Very good morning to all of you, my friends. Welcome back after a long weekend. I hope you guys are done with the homework. That is, I hope you guys are able to solve all the questions of standard costing. That is the study material. That is all the questions of study material. That is the illustration as well as the practical questions. And further, as I suggested you to solve the question of past practice manual. So I hope you guys have solved. So let me check. Yogita Kumar Devda. Very good morning, Yogita. Just wanted to ask you that query that there is any way to not to mistake. Well, practice is the only solution, Yogita. Ritika Verma. Very good morning, sir. Completed with all the questions. Very good, Ritika Verma. Very good, Mantanjali. Very good, Sakshi. Very good morning, Tanishka. So now, guys, let's start with one more important chapter, the most important chapter we can say. Just like standard costing, marginal costing today we are starting. When talking about the weightage of this chapter, we can say the minimum marks the examiner is going to ask you is of 10 marks. And it can go till 15 also. And I think in one of the attempts, they do ask more than 15 marks questions also. So just wanted to say that minimum 10 marks examiner is going to ask you on this chapter. So a very important chapter from examination point of view. Very good, Shivam. Very good, Mantanjali. Very good, Mohammad Farad. So guys, let's start with marginal costing. We can say the weightage is approx 10 to 15 marks. Now, again, now this chapter has nothing to do with calculation of cost. It's a part of management accounting and it assists management in decision making. As far as calculation of cost is concerned, as I discussed earlier also, we have already discussed job costing, contract costing that is used for construction industries, service costing we have discussed for the persons who are into service sector. Further, wherein a raw material passes through various process, we have discussed process costing. Apart from this, for calculation of cost, we have discussed cost sheet also. So these chapters covers the calculation of cost. But whereas this marginal costing and standard costing has nothing to do with calculation of cost. They are part of management accounting and assist management in a decision making. So it's a part of management accounting and it assists management in decision making. Now, very good, Nalini C. In the query session, I'll try to discuss illustration number 12 separately. Don't worry. Both the approaches are correct, Pooja. You can calculate it individually also. You can calculate in aggregate also. Happy morning, Pooja. So now let's proceed further with this chapter, marginal costing. So this marginal costing chapter has nothing to do with calculation of cost. It's simply a management tool for decision making. It assists management in decision making. Now what we generally do in marginal costing is a very simple, only variable cost is charged to the cost of a product. As far as fixed cost is concerned, we do consider fixed cost, but as far as the calculation of product cost is concerned, only variable cost is charged to the cost of the product. Now, before starting with this chapter, let me discuss few points and then we will start with the practical part of this chapter and the conceptual part of this chapter. So, let me discuss few terms before starting with this chapter. The first point is marginal cost. The question is, what is marginal cost? Sir, the video is buffering or what? Please check. Admin sir, are there any connectivity issues from our end? Admin sir, are you there? Admin sir, few students, one student has mentioned that video is buffering. I request you, Mantanjali, to please refresh your internet connection. I hope I am visible to all and audible to all. And the board is visible also. Please check, guys. Is the board visible to all, guys? Admin sir, my board is visible clearly. Okay, guys. So when talking about what is marginal cost, very simple, marginal cost is the cost of producing additional unit. What is marginal cost? The cost of producing additional unit. Let's say I do manufacture 10 units and the cost is 100 rupees. So if I manufacture 11th unit, the cost will be 110. So herein, rupees 10 is what? The marginal cost. That is cost of producing additional unit. Further, we can say, let's take one more example. Let's say I do manufacture 100 units and the cost is 1000 rupees. Now, if I manufacture 101 unit and let's say the cost is 1050 rupees, then here in this case also, rupees 50 is the marginal cost. So what we can say is marginal cost is the cost of producing one additional unit. So that is marginal cost. Very good morning, Mangeshwaran. No worries, Pooja. So very important, guys, what is marginal cost? The cost of producing one additional unit. So here, let's say if I manufacture 10 units and the cost is 100, so if we manufacture one, and further if I manufacture 11 units, the cost is 110. So the cost to manufacture one additional unit, that is rupees 10, in this case, is my marginal cost. Further, let's take one more example wherein, let's say I do manufacture 100 units and the cost is 1000. And if I manufacture 101st unit and if the cost is 1050, then too also rupees 50 is my marginal cost. That is the cost of producing one additional unit. So the first point what we discussed is, yes, Tanishka Agrawal. Now, let's discuss one more point. That is variable cost. I repeat again, guys, we are discussing the chapter marginal costing. Before starting with this chapter, I just want to discuss few terms so that I can refer these terms easily while discussing few points in the chapter. So the first point what we discussed is marginal cost, that is the cost of producing one additional unit. Now moving towards the next part, that is variable cost. What is variable cost? The cost that varies according to production. What is variable cost? The cost that varies according to production. What is variable cost? The cost that varies according to production. सीधी और आसान भाषा में वो कॉस्ट जो प्रोडक्शन के हिसाब से चेंज होती रहती है, दैट इज वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. लेट्स से I do manufacture 10 units and the cost is 100. The cost of 50 units will be how much? 500. The cost of 1000 units will be how much? 10,000. The cost of, let's say, 60,000 units will be how much? 6 lakh. And if I don't manufacture any unit, the cost will be how much? 0. So I repeat again, guys. Very good, Mantanjali. Yes, very true. So what is variable cost? The cost that varies according to production. वो cost जो production के हिसाब से vary करता है, that is what we call as variable cost. In an example I discussed that, let's say I do manufacture 10 units and the cost is 100. What will be the cost of 20 units? 200. What will be the cost of 5,000 units? 50,000. But if there is no production, no cost will be incurred. Now, when talking about the variable cost, I have already discussed, it covers the basic cost, it covers is raw material. Let's say I am manufacturer of this pen. This pen is made of plastic and ink. Now, the more the production, the more the plastic and ink will be required. The less the production, the less the plastic and ink will be required. And if there is no production, no plastic and ink will be required. Further, let's say I'm the manufacturer of this shirt, and let's say the shirt is manufactured from 2 meters. So one shirt required 2 meters. So let's say one shirt required 2 meters. And 2 meters, this is what? My raw material. So if I manufacture 1000 shirts, 2000 meters. If I manufacture 5000 shirts, again 10,000 meters. So this cost is changing according to the production. In proportion of the production, it is increasing or decreasing. And let's say if I manufacture 200 shirts, the cost, the raw material, that is the fabric used, will be how much? Very simple, 400 meters. So this is the cost that varies according to production. That is, more the production, the more the proportionate raw material will be required. The less the proportion, the less the production, the less the proportionate raw material will be required. So the best example of variable cost we can say is raw material. Apart from this, let's say I'm the manufacturer of this shirt and this shirt is made up of fabric. Fabric is my raw material. I do give the stitching on job work. I do not carry on the stitching work myself. I do give it on job work. And job work, the job worker, I need to pay job worker rupees 50 for stitching. So that rupees 50 is what my labor cost. Further, let's say I have an in-house team of labor and they do keep on stitching the shirt, and I do pay my labor the wages on the basis of number of units manufactured. So herein, if I'm paying rupees 50 per shirt stitched, then this 50 rupees is what my labor cost. So here we can say raw material plus labor plus all the variable overhead will form part of variable cost. So very simple, guys. What is variable cost? The cost that varies according to production. More the production, more the variable cost. Less the production, less the variable cost. The example of variable cost are raw material, labor, and variable overheads. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can ask me. Further, I request you guys to please copy this part. I'll be discussing thereafter one more point, and then we'll start with the basics of this chapter. Very good morning, Amit Yadav. Anyone else having any doubts? Rajiv Kumar Das, Pooja PS, Rekha, Mantanjali, Tanishka Agarwal, Siddhappa. I'll be discussing this part separately, Aradhana. Madhuri, I don't think so. It's your first comment I have received. You said additional cost. Yes, Madhuri, I have received your comment, additional cost. Yes, Madhuri. Very good morning. Yes, Miss P. Patro. We can use these words interchangeably. Don't worry. Now let's move towards the next part. Fixed cost. Now guys, what is fixed cost? Very simple. The cost that remain fixed irrespective of production. Kitna bhi production karo, the cost will remain fixed. So what is fixed cost? The cost that remain fixed irrespective of let's say I do manufacture 1000 units and my fixed cost is 10 lakh. I repeat again, I am discussing fixed cost. I'm discussing fixed cost. What is fixed cost? The cost that remain fixed irrespective of production. Kitna bhi production karo, the cost will remain fixed. So let's say I do manufacture 1000 units and the cost is 10 lakh. Now if in case I do manufacture 5000 units, again the cost will be how much? 10 lakh. If I do manufacture 5 lakh units also, this cost will remain 10 lakh. If I manufacture 50 units also, my cost will be 10 lakh. And if I manufacture 0 units also, my cost will remain unchanged, that is 10 lakh. So what we can see is, even though the production is increasing or decreasing, my fixed cost is constant at all the level of production or sales. Can you guys help me out with the examples of fixed cost? What all we can say, what all is covered in fixed cost? Can you guys please help me out with few examples? Can you help me out with few examples of fixed cost? What is fixed cost? The cost that remain fixed irrespective of production. Kitna bhi production karo, the cost will remain fixed. So just waiting for your examples. I've got answer from Faber, Biju, Thomas. Rent, insurance, shop rent, depreciation, factory rent. So we can say, when talking about the example of fixed cost, rent, insurance, depreciation, we can say salaries paid to my staff. So these are the examples of fixed cost, that is rent, depreciation, salaries paid. So these are the examples of fixed cost. I've got answer from many. Fixed electricity charges, rent of premise, rent of building, salaries, machinery cost, rental cost, wages. No, wages will only be covered in variable cost, not in fixed cost. Preeti Panchal, interest expenses, interest paid on loan, Manthanjali. Yes, very true, guys. Now, which cost, can you help me out? Just think about the practical part. Practically, which cost you think is more risky for the companies? Can you help me out? Which cost is more riskier for the companies? I just want to tell you guys, maximum companies का जो headache होता है, that is what we call it as the fixed cost. Most of the startups or most of the small businesses or most of the small industry, their major headache is what? To recover this fixed cost. काफी कंपनीज को अपना बिजनेस बंद करना पड़ता है because they are not being able to recover their fixed cost. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have taken a factory on hire to manufacture these pens. I repeat again, guys. Yes, Rashmin Kumar, I'm receiving your comments. There is no rain here. So Dada Subhash did. I think there are no connectivity issues from our end. So guys, let's say I'm the manufacturer of this pen. I have started a new business and I do manufacture this whiteboard markers. I have taken a factory on rent, and let's say my rent is 1 lakh rupees, and my other fixed cost, let's say my other fixed cost is 1 lakh. So my total fixed cost is 2 lakh. Now, what will be my major headache? Very simple, to manufacture that much of pen so that I can recover this fixed cost of 2 lakh. So as discussed in marginal costing, only variable cost is charged to the cost of a product. So let's say this pen is manufactured at a variable cost of at a variable cost of rupees, let's say 8 per piece. So let's say this pen is manufactured at a cost of rupees 8 per piece. Yes, fixed is very risky for the companies, for the new setups or for the small scale industries. So let's say this pen is manufactured at a cost of rupees 8 per piece and it can be sold in the market at the rate of rupees 12 per piece. This is what the basic scenario of this pen. So now per pen I do recover 4 rupees. I repeat again, 12 rupees per piece is the selling price and 8 rupees per piece is what? My variable cost. So per piece I do recover 4 rupees. Per piece I do recover 4 piece. Now let's say if on a particular case I do manufacture 1000 pen. So how much will be I getting net? 40,000 rupees. I repeat again guys, per piece I do recover 4 rupees. So let's say on a particular year I do manufacture 10,000 pen. So how much I am recovering net of variable cost? 40,000. Again my headache will be how to recover my fixed cost. So the major headache for the companies, the small startup is that they are not being able to recover their fixed cost timely, so they have to shut down their business. Can you help me out with this business? That how much pen he should sell so that he is indifferent that he has not to shut down the business. Can you help me out with guys? I repeat again, this pen is manufactured at a variable cost of rupees 8 and it is being sold in the market at the rate 12. So per pen I am recovering rupees 4. Now my first headache is that 4 rupees I should recover that much so that I have no need to shut down the business. So can you guys help me out with that? How much pen should I manufacture and sell so that I can recover my fixed cost and mujhe business band na karna pade? Can you help me out with it? I've got answer from Manthanjali. Rajiv Kumar Das. Manthanjali, please check your answer. Rajiv Kumar Das, your answer is correct. Himanshu Gupta, your answer is correct. My simple question is, I do manufacture pen at a variable cost of rupees 8. And the selling price of this pen I have fixed at rupees 12. So I am earning rupees 4 per pen net of variable cost. Now what will be my first motto? That from 4 rupees plus 4 rupees plus 4 rupees I should get that much. How much? 2 lakh rupees, so that I will not suffer loss. Mujhe loss na ho. Can you guys help me out with that? How much units should I manufacture and sell that I should not incur loss? I've got answer from Rashmin Kumar, Shriya, Alok Chaudhary, Aniket Srivastav. All your answers are correct. Manthanjali, incorrect answer. Anirudh Dubey, yes, your answer is correct. Tanishka, Kamlesh Chaudhary, Fareen Fatima, Akash Neel. Tanishka Agarwal, incorrect answer. Manthanjali, incorrect answer. Ritika Verma, correct answer. Pooja, incorrect answer. Amit Yadav, incorrect answer. Nalini C, correct answer. Vijay, correct answer. Atulya, correct answer. Manthanjali, incorrect. And Pooja Sharma, correct. Again, I repeat my same question. I do manufacture this pen at a cost of rupees 8 and I am getting 12 rupees as my selling price. So 4 rupees I am saving from the sale of this pen. So my first target will be what? To recover my fixed cost. Once I recover my fixed cost, I am safe कि मुझे loss तो नहीं होगा. So I've got answers from many and most of the students were able to answer it correctly. So very simple funda. 4 rupees plus 4 rupees plus 4 rupees. How much I want so that I should not incur loss? Very simple. Total 2 lakh I have to recover. Of this 4 rupees per pen I am saving. So how much pen should I save so that I should not get a loss? Very simple, 50,000 pens. So as and when I'm able to achieve that level, I'm safe कि मुझे loss तो नहीं होगा. Very simple, guys. I repeat again. As and when I reach that production level of 50,000 pen, I'm safe कि मुझे loss नहीं होगा. Okay, I understand. Profit नहीं होगा, मगर loss भी नहीं होगा. So this 50,000 pen is what? The indifference point. In simple terms, we can say it is the break-even point, wherein neither we suffer loss nor we get profit. So 50,000 is the point where we are safe that we are not incurring any losses. I'll be discussing this break-even point separately. Further, if you guys have any doubts in this question, you guys can ask me, or in this part, you guys can ask me. Tanishka, I think you have written 40,000 by mistake, my dear. Yes, Vijay Gore, this is the break-even point. Very simple, 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus till 2 lakh if you reach, it is total 50,000 pens you have to sell to recover how much? 2 lakh rupees. So most of the business are not being able to attain the sales level. So in this case also, if they are not being able to manufacture and sell 50,000 pens in a year, they have to sustain losses. They can sustain losses, they can survive for 1 or 2 years. Thereafter, they have to shut down the operation. So very simple, guys, very important. The major headache for the small industries is what? To recover their fixed cost. If they are, as far as variable cost is concerned, it is incurred only when we are manufacturing unit. But fixed cost, whether we are manufacturing units or not, whether we are manufacturing units or not, we have to incur the fixed cost. In lockdown also, many companies shut down their operation. Many small scale businesses has to shut down their business. Why? The major reason is that they are not being able to recover their rent. Let's say I have a stationery shop and this premise is on rent. Now the thing is, in lockdown, I was not selling any sort of product, but I have to pay the rent to my landlord. So this rent was a big headache for me. And since I sustained for somewhat, let's say, 1 महीने मैंने चलाया, 2 महीने चलाया, but after a certain point, I was not being able to pay the rent, so I have to shut down the business. So most of the companies in the lockdown shut down their business. Why? Because they were not being able to recover their fixed cost. As far as variable cost is concerned, it is incurred only when we are manufacturing any unit. If we are not manufacturing any unit, variable cost is not incurred. But yes, fixed cost is the major headache for the companies in the lockdown, and that's why they shut down their operations. So in this case, this 50,000 pence is what my break-even point. At this point, if I'm not getting any profits, at least I'm not incurring any losses also. So if you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. Tanishka Agarwal, as you said, many companies reduce the number of staff. They just fired few staff. Why? Because they just want to cut their fixed cost. For the bigger companies also in the lockdown, the major headache was the fixed cost. So what they do, they simply removed many staff to cut down their fixed cost. As far as variable cost, it is going to be incurred only when the company do manufacture certain product. But the major headache for everyone is what? The fixed cost. If you guys have any doubts, any queries till now, you guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries. In the meanwhile, I request you guys to please copy this part. Pooja Dayaram, very simple, Pooja. I do manufacture pen at a cost of ₹8. Sell it for ₹12. So per pen, I'm recovering how much? ₹4. Now, from this 4 rupees, I have to recover how much in aggregate? 2 lakh, so that I should not incur loss. So how much pen I have to sell, manufacture and sell 50,000. If I'm not being able to, so okay, I have the production capacity, but let's say if I'm not being able to sell these 50,000 pens, I'll be in loss. And I can, somewhere manage for 1 or 2 years, but thereafter I have to shut down the business. Yes, Rashwin Kumar. And this is what we call it as the break-even point. We'll be discussing break-even point separately. But since we were discussing this part, so it goes with the flow. I request you guys to please copy this part. So very simple, guys. We today started with marginal costing. In marginal costing, we do charge variable cost only to the cost of product. As far as the fixed cost will remain constant at all the level of production. So this marginal costing is a tool of management decision making. It has nothing to do with calculation of cost. Pooja PS, this ₹4 we are getting after recovering the variable cost. As I said, my selling price is ₹12, my variable cost is ₹8. So after recovering variable cost, we are getting ₹4. So from this 4, I should get that much of, I should be able to manufacture and sell that much of units so that I can recover my fixed cost. Sir, there are any connectivity issues, sir? Can you please check? Admin, sir, because most of the students are saying that there are some connectivity issues. Admin, sir. Huh? Sir, video is buffering, video is buffering, video is buffering. काफी लोगों ने लिखा है. Audio is also not there. So should I continue? Okay. So guys, done with the basics part, that is whatever the elements I want to discuss, I've already discussed. So now let's start with this chapter, marginal costing. To keep the things very simple, this marginal costing is based on only 5 terms. This marginal costing is based on 5 terms. That is my sales, my variable cost. If we deduct variable cost from sales, we'll be getting a contribution. If we deduct fixed cost from contribution, we will be getting profit. So this is the marginal cost equation, where the first element is the sales. So sales, if we deduct variable cost from sales, we'll be getting a figure known as contribution. Further, if we deduct fixed cost from contribution, we'll be getting profit. So in this, let's say I made a sale of ₹200. My variable cost is, let's say, 120. So how much will be my contribution? Very simple, 80. That is sales minus variable cost. Let's say my fixed cost is rupees 40. So how much will be my profit? 40. So this chapter is based on these 5 terms. If you guys understand the logic behind these 5 terms, if you guys are able to manipulate these 5 terms, you are the master of this chapter. And my chapter will be revolving on these 5 terms only. So very simple, guys. Sales minus variable cost is my contribution. Contribution minus fixed cost is what? My profit. So we can say, what will be the formula for contribution? Very simple. Contribution, we can say it will be sales minus variable cost. So my sales was 200, my variable cost is 120. So how much will be my contribution? 80. Alternatively, we can say there is one more formula for contribution. That is, my contribution is how much? 80. How can it be derived? Fixed cost plus profit can also be contribution. So contribution can be fixed cost plus profit. One more point, what will be the formula of variable cost? Very simple, we can say sales minus contribution will be variable cost. So let's say what will be the formula for fixed cost? We can say contribution, because many students are complaining in this session that there are some connectivity issues. So very simple, guys, you should be able to understand these terms and you should know how to make the formulas from these 5 points. Sir, everyone is saying that the video is buffering, sir. Can you please recheck? Please put the session on hold for 2 minutes, sir. Sir, are you there? Admin, sir? कुछ ना कुछ इशू आ रहा है बिकॉज जनरली बच्चे कभी बोलते नहीं है इतना कंटिन्यूअसली आ रहा है बारिश हो रहा है क्या उधर आपके उधर सर सेशन होल्ड पे है ना सर एक बार सेशन आप होल्ड पे डालिए सर द सेशन इज ऑन होल्ड Welcome back, guys. I think there were some connectivity issues from our end. So I hope I'm audible and visible to all. My board is visible to all. Am I audible and visible to all? Karthik Gupta, this is what we call as the net profit. We are, as far as variable cost only, we are charging to the cost of product, but to calculate the net profit of the company as a whole, that's why I'm deducting the fixed cost. No need to memorize it actually, Tanishka. So very simple, guys. This marginal costing equation is very simple, very simple. That is sales minus variable cost is my contribution, and contribution, what we are getting after deducting variable cost, the fixed cost is wiped off against contribution to get the profit. So this is what the basic marginal costing equation is. So guys, you have to understand these 5 points thoroughly to understand the chapter in the best possible way. So now, let's start with the first part of the chapter from examination point of view. The first question what the examiner do ask is the profit volume ratio. That is the PV ratio. The first question what the examiner do ask is what the PV ratio, that is profit volume ratio. Now, this profit volume ratio is nothing but the percentage of contribution to sales. This PV ratio is nothing but the percentage of contribution to sales. So the formula will be what? The contribution divided by sales into 100. So what this PV ratio is very simple. It shows the relationship between contribution and sales. That is, how much percentage is the contribution to sale. So this PV ratio is nothing but the percentage of contribution to my sales. So let's say in this question also my contribution is how much? 80, and my sales is 200. So how much will be my PV ratio? Very simple, 40%. It means what? This contribution is 40% of sales. This contribution of 80 is how much? This contribution of 80 is how much? 40% of sales. So very simple, guys. This PV ratio, it shows the relationship of contribution to sales. That is, how much percentage is my contribution to my total sales. So herein in this question, my contribution is 80, my sales is 200. So how much is my percentage contribution to sales? We can say 40% is the contribution to sales. So my contribution is 40% to my sales. So if my sales is 200, if we multiply it by 40%, we'll be getting 80 as the contribution. So I repeat again, what is PV ratio? It shows the relationship between contribution and sales. That is, what is the percentage of contribution to sales? That's what the PV ratio help us to figure out. So let's say my PV ratio is 20. Let's say my contribution is 2000. Let's say my contribution is 2000. My sales is 10,000. So we can say my PV ratio is 20%. That is what? That is the contribution is 20% of sales. Let's say my contribution is 5,000. My sales is 10,000. How much will be the percentage of contribution to sales? Very simple. It is 50%. So what is PV ratio? It shows the relationship of contribution to sales. It shows that what is the percentage of contribution to sales. So let's take few examples. The first example, let's say my sales is 10,000. My contribution is 2,000. So we can easily say my PV ratio will be how much? 20%. Let's say my sales is 50,000. My contribution is how much? Let's say 20,000. Let's say my sales is 50,000, my contribution is 20,000. So how much will be my PV ratio? Very simple, 40%. Let's say my sales is 1 lakh. My variable cost is, let's say, 75,000. So how much will be my PV ratio? Very simple. We will first calculate contribution, that is 1 lakh minus 75,000. We'll be getting 1 lakh is my sales, 75,000 is my variable cost. So what we will do, we will first calculate the contribution. That is sales minus variable cost, will be getting 25,000. And 25,000 divided by 1 lakh, 25% is what? My PV ratio. So for calculating PV ratio, we have to first calculate contribution, and that is 25,000 divided by 1 lakh into 100. So 25%. Do you guys have any doubts till now? Let's say my contribution is given. Let's say it is 80,000. My contribution is given, it is 80,000, and my PV ratio is given, let's say 25%. So can you guys help me out? What will be my sales? Can you guys tell me what will be my sales? We can use this word interchangeably, Rajiv Kumar Das. Can you guys help me out that what will be my sales? My contribution is 80,000. My PV ratio is 25%. So what will be my sales? Very good, Vikas. Very good, Arvind. Very good, Neha Verma. Correct answer. Anirudh, correct answer. Shivam, correct answer. Sakshi, correct answer. Neha, please check your number of zeros. Isha Jaiswal, your answer is incorrect. Rashmin Kumar, correct answer. Nidhi Parikh, correct answer. Mr. Mangeshwaran, incorrect answer. Himanshu Gupta, correct answer. Neha Verma, incorrect answer. Neha Murarka, please check the number of zeros. Rekha Kumari, incorrect answer. Still waiting for your answers. Tanishka Agrawal, Madhuri Nikhare, Shivam Durya, Nalini, Rekha Kumari, incorrect answer. Waiting for your answers. Preeti Panchal, Tanishka. Okay, I've got answer from Ankit Gupta. Please check the number of zeros. Karthik Gupta, correct answer. Isha Jaiswal, incorrect answer. Akash Neel, incorrect answer. I'm surprised. It's just a simple mathematics. Pooja Dayaram, incorrect answer. Tanishka, very good, correct answer. Fareen Fatima, correct answer. Rafika Meman, Neha, now it is correct. Ritika Verma, Vijay Gore, please check the number of zeros. Tanishka, correct answer. Poonam Sharma, correct answer. Manthanjali, Incorrect answer, my dear. Ankit Gupta, please check the number of zeros. Aradhana, correct answer. Amit Yadav, Pooja, PS, Rekha Kumari, Atulya, Poonam Sharma, everybody correct answer. Tanishka also correct answer. So very simple, guys. How much will be my sales? See, in this point, we can say the sales is divided in two parts. That is, let's say my sales is 200. If my variable cost is 120, my contribution will be 80. So for calculation of PV ratio, sales is divided in two parts. Sales can be divided in two parts. There are two breakup of sales. The first is the variable cost, and the balance part that is left out is what we call it as contribution. So now the PV ratio represents the percentage of contribution to sales, and it is 25% to sales. And here in this question, 80,000 is given, and that is what my contribution. So this 80,000 is 25% of sales. So how much will be 100%? So 80,000 divided by 25%. 3,20,000 rupees will be my sales. Very simple, guys. This sales can be here in the sales is divided in two parts. My sales was 200. So the first part was variable cost, that is 120 rupees, and the balance left out is, we call it as contribution, that is 80 rupees. So here in this question, the percentage of contribution to sales is given, that is 25%, and the contribution is 80,000. So how much will be my sales? Very simple, 3,20,000. Sneha B, please recheck your answer. No worries, Akash Neel. Vijay Gore, please check the number of zeros. Mantanjali, now the answer is correct. One more question for you guys. Let's say my variable cost is 1,20,000. Let's say my variable cost is 1,20,000 and my PV ratio is how much? Let's say 40%. So how much will be my sales? My variable cost is 1,20,000. It is 1,20,000. My PV ratio is 40%. So how much will be my sales? Yes, Shivam, your answer was correct. No worries, Rekha. I just want the sales figure. How much will be my sales? Okay, so I've got answer from Swati. Your answer is incorrect. Vikas Bansal, incorrect answer. Rafika Memon, incorrect answer. Please read the question carefully, guys. As I told you, this chapter is based on 5 terms. If you understand that, if you can plus, minus, divide, multiply in a proper way, you'll be able to understand the chapter thoroughly. Nothing more than that. This chapter is based on these 5 terms only. So I've got answer from Swati, incorrect answer. Vikas Bansal, incorrect answer. Rafika Memon, incorrect answer. Ankit Gupta, your answer is correct. Arvind, your answer is correct. Rekha Kumari, Shivam Singh, correct answer. Karthik Gupta, correct answer. Rahul, incorrect answer. Sakshi, Aniket, Isha, Mantanjali, Himanshu, Chaitra, Tanishka, Vikas, and Sakshi. All your answers are correct. Sumit Kumar, incorrect answer. Neha Verma, correct answer. Mantanjali, Shivam, Prabhas Jain, everybody correct answer. Yes, Nalini, Rajiv Kumar, can you help me out with your answers, please? So again, the simple concept, as I said, sales can be divided in two parts, variable cost and contribution. Now herein, in this question, variable cost is given, that is 1,20,000 rupees. And the percentage of contribution is given, and that is 40%. So what will be the percentage of variable cost? Very simple, it is 60%. If the contribution is 40% of sales, then variable cost will be 60% in this case. So here in the contribution is 40% of sales, so my variable cost will be 60% of the total sales. So here in this question, variable cost is given, that is 1,20,000. It is equals to 60% of the total sales. So the sales will be 2 lakh rupees. Very good, Karthik, Swati, Shivani. Jyoti Vadir, please check your answer. Atulya, please check your answer. Yes, okay, I think I skipped your answer. Yogita, very good, correct answer. Please recheck your answer, Swati. Nalini, see, I think I received your answer. I skipped your answer, I think. So I hope you guys are thorough with this calculation. That is, what is PV ratio? The percentage of contribution to sales. So if the contribution is, let's say, 40% of sales, variable cost will be 60% of sales. If the contribution is 25% of sales, if the contribution is 25% of sales, the variable cost will be 75% of the sales. Yes, Karthik, we can somehow, somewhere we can say this. Yes, Ritika, Nidhi, Preeti, Amit, your answers are correct now. So guys, very important, read the question carefully and then start solving the question. Still few are not been able to answer, but I think after practicing, they will be able to do it in the correct way. Now further, I request you guys to please copy this explanation. We'll be discussing few more points on PV ratio, and then we will start with the next part of the chapter. So I request you to please copy this part and further please copy these questions, because right now you are attending the session and you are able to solve, but while revising, I want that you should revise all these questions for more clarity. So I request you guys to please copy this part. Yes, Preeti, your answer was correct. Pooja PS, very important. What is PV ratio? The percentage of contribution to sales. That is, हमारा जो contribution आ रहा है, ये हमारी sales का कितना percentage, इसको represent करता है term PV ratio. No, Pooja Dayaram. Anyone else having any doubts? I repeat again, Pooja, PS, very simple. What is PV ratio? It shows the relationship between contribution and sales. That is, what is the percentage of contribution to sales? Now, let's take one more example. Let's say yes, I'll be taking Neha, don't worry. No, not. Neha, I'll be keeping a query session separately to discuss the doubts of standard costing. So now, let's say I do manufacture and sell 500 units. I do manufacture and sell 500 units, and let's say these units are sold at the rate rupees 10 per unit. So my total sales will be how much? 5,000 rupees. Now let's say my variable cost will be, let's say my variable cost is rupees 7 per unit. So my total variable cost will be how much? 3,500. So how much will be my contribution? 1,500. And rupees 3 will be my contribution per unit. Now, what will be my PV ratio? Very simple, we can say contribution divided by sales into 100. That will be my PV ratio. So that is 1,500 divided by 5,000 into 100. That is 30% will be my PV ratio. So my relationship of contribution to sales is how much? 30%. That is, my contribution is 30% of sales. Neerav, I've got your answers now. Rent and salaries, it's already discussed an hour back. So I've got the relationship of my contribution to sales, that is 30%. That is, contribution is my contribution is 30% of my total sales. Now, let's say I increase my production to, let's say, 700 units. Instead of 500 units, I'm manufacturing and selling 700 units. My question is, will my PV ratio, I mean, my PV ratio is going to change or not? Mera PV ratio change hoga ya nahi hoga? If I do manufacture 700 units instead of 500 units, can you guys help me out with it? My question is, अगर मैं 700 यूनिट्स मैन्युफैक्चर करता हूं इंस्टेड ऑफ 500 यूनिट्स, क्या मेरा पीवी रेशियो चेंज होगा या नहीं होगा? अ सिंपल आंसर आई वांट, यस और नो. Himanshu Gupta, it will change. Mangeshwaran, it will change. Chetra, it will change. Nalini, no. Shivam, no. I've got answers, and 50% are saying that yes, it will change. 50% are saying that it will not change. Still waiting for your answers. I think so, Preeti. There are some connectivity issues. Shivam, Durya, no change. So guys, so let's say if I do manufacture 700 units, so 700 into 10, my sales will be how much? 7,000. 700 into 7, 4,200 will be my variable cost. So how much will be my contribution? How much will be my contribution? Very simple, 2,100. So let's calculate the PV ratio. 2,100 divided by 7,000 into 100. So again it is 30%. So there is no change in PV ratio, guys. No change. I repeat again, guys. Let's say if I do manufacture 700 units instead of 500, my question is, क्या मेरा PV ratio change होगा? No, it will not change. So see, 700 into 10, 7,000, 700 into 7, 4,900. So the contribution will be 2,100. So 2,100 divided by 7,000 into 100, 30%. Further, let's say if I do manufacture 1 unit, again, 1 into 10, 10, 1 into 3, 1 into 7, 7, 10 minus 7, 3, 3 divided by 10 into 100, 30%. That is PV ratio will remain constant. So my point is, guys, so my point is, if the units are increasing, if the units are decreasing, it will not change the PV ratio. The PV ratio will remain unchanged. So my point is very simple. If the sales is increasing, if the sales is decreasing, it will not affect PV ratio. PV ratio remain constant at all the level of sales. Very important. Even though the sales is increasing or decreasing, PV ratio won't change. But let's say if there is any change in selling price per unit, let's say there is change in selling price per unit. Let's say I reduce my selling price from 10 to 9. Will my PV ratio going to change? Yes. So my variable contribution will be how much? 2. That is 9 minus 7, 2. So 2 by 9 into 100, my PV ratio will remain same. 22.22%. So my point is very simple. PV ratio remain constant at all the level of sales. However, if there is any change in selling price per unit, ये relationship जो है ये हमेशा maintain होना चाहिए. That is the per unit relationship. Whether you manufacture 1 unit, 100 units, 5,000 units, 5 lakh units, the PV ratio will remain constant at all the level of sales. However, if there is any disturbance in these two elements, that is the selling price per unit or the variable cost per unit, yes, the PV ratio will change. So, major thing is this per unit relationship should be maintained. That is 3 divided by 10 should be maintained. If there is any change in variable cost per unit, if there is any change in selling price per unit, yes, the PV ratio will change. So the final statement is, yes, Pooja, very true. So my point is, guys, very simple. The thumb rule, PV ratio remain constant at all the levels of sales. Whether the sales is increasing or whether the sales is reducing, PV ratio will remain unchanged. However, if there is a change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, yes, the PV ratio will change. So major thing is this relationship should be maintained. my major point is that this relationship, that is the contribution per unit and the selling price per unit should be maintained. This relationship, that is 10 minus 7, we are getting 3. So 3 divided by 10 into 100. This relationship should remain unchanged. This relationship should be maintained. That is the selling price per unit and variable cost per unit. As far as units is concerned, even though there is an increase in number of units or decrease in number of units, it won't affect the PV ratio. Yes, Mantanjali. Yes, Prabhas Jain. So, very simple, guys. PV ratio will remain constant at all the level of sales. However, if there is any change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, then PV ratio will PV ratio will remain constant at all the level of sales. However, if there is any change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, then only the PV ratio will change. Now, guys, very important. If the question is silent, we have to assume that selling price is constant, variable cost is constant, therefore the PV ratio is constant. So, when talking about the assumption, writing it separately for you, if the question is silent, we have to assume that first point, selling price per unit is unchanged. Variable cost per unit is unchanged. Therefore, PV ratio is constant. So my point is, if the question is silent, we have to assume, I repeat again, if the question is silent, we will assume selling price per unit is constant, variable cost per unit is constant, therefore we can say PV ratio is constant. But if question clearly states that there is a change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, the PV ratio will change. This is all what about PV ratio. Just repeating the last point once again. First point, the PV ratio remain constant at all the level of sales. If the units are increasing or decreasing, the PV ratio will remain unchanged. If it is clearly mentioned in the question that there is a change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, yes, the PV ratio will change. So when talking about the assumptions of marginal costing, it assumes that if the question is silent, we will assume that PV ratio remain unchanged. It means if the sales is increasing, the units are increasing. If the sales is reducing, the units are reducing. There is no change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit. So if you guys have any doubts in this part, we are done with PV ratio. I hope you guys are clear with the concepts of PV ratio, what all assumptions we do follow. So if you guys have any doubts, queries, you guys can ask me, waiting for your queries. And further, I request you to please copy this part. Please copy the statement and the calculation part. Rajiv Kumar Das, I just want to rectify your statement. If the contribution per unit changes, yes, the PV ratio changes. I request you guys to please copy this part. Waiting for your queries, guys. Waiting for your queries. Mantanjali, Shivam, Rajiv Kumar, Tanishka, Shivani, Rashmin Kumar, Rafika, Nidhi, Mohammad Farad, anyone else? Chetra, Yogita, any doubts? Very good, Karthik. Yes, Siddharpa, these are the assumptions what will be following in all the question. So if the question is silent, we will assume that the relationship of contribution to sales is same at all the level of sales. So if the sales is increasing, we will assume that the units are increasing. If the sales is decreasing, we'll assume that the units are decreasing. The selling price per unit and variable cost per unit will be the constant, and therefore our contribution, that is the PV ratio, will be the same. So this is what the first part you have to calculate, and examiner generally do ask, that is the PV ratio. Now, yes, there will be a change. If any of the, if there is any change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, yes, the PV ratio will change. And it will be specifically mentioned in the question that there is a percentage of change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit. Now let's proceed further. The next part of the chapter, that is break even sales. Now guys, what is break even sales? Very simple guys, that level of sales where there is no profit, no loss. Or we can say sales is equals to total cost. वो पॉइंट जहां पे सेल्स और टोटल कॉस्ट बराबर हो जाते हैं, that is what we call as break even sales, or the level of sales where there is no profit, no loss. So that is what we call as break even sales or break even point. Let me discuss this concept with the same example. We'll be taking the same example throughout the chapter. But before starting with this concept, let's take a break of 10 minutes. And thereafter, we'll be starting with the break-even sales and the remaining part of the chapter. So better let's take a break. Before the break, as discussed, what is break-even sales? That level of sales where there is no profit, no loss. In the previous example, what we discussed, that if we do manufacture and sell 50,000 pens, that was the point of break-even sales. That is, we are indifferent. That is, हमें profit भी नहीं हो रहा है और loss भी नहीं हो रहा है. 50,000 is the point where we are earning, neither we are earning nor we are losing. So we'll be discussing this concept in detail after a break of 10 minutes. So let's start, let's take the break. Edwin sir, are you there? Welcome back, guys, after a break. So now, admin sir, please do it on mute. Keep it on mute, sir. Admin sir. So guys, welcome back after a break. So now, before the break, we started with PV ratio. We discussed PV ratio. The formula what we discussed is contribution divided by sales into 100. Now let's start with a fresh point. That is the second question. What the examiner can ask is break-even sales. So what is break-even sales? That level of sales, that point of sales where there is no profit or no loss. Or we can say at a particular point when my sales and my total cost is equal. When talking about total cost, it covers variable plus fixed. Let me discuss this concept with the help of an example. The same example we'll be using throughout the chapter. Let's say my sales is 200. My variable cost is 120. My contribution is 80. My fixed cost is, let's say, 40. So my profit will be how much? 40. The relationship between contribution and sales, we call it as PV ratio. That is contribution divided by sales into 100. That is 80 divided by 200 into 100. So this is 40%. So now we have got the relationship between contribution and sales. So it is, we can say contribution is 40% of sales. Now, my point is, what will be the break-even point? Can you guys help me out in this situation? What will be the break-even point? Further, what will be the point wherein the sales and total cost will be the same? Can you guys tell me? My question is, can you tell me the sales where the sales and total cost will be equal, or the point where my profit or loss is zero? Waiting for your answers, guys. You have to tell me the sales where the sales and total cost is equal. I have got answers as expected. Isha and Arvind, sir, 160. Rajiv Kumar Das, 160. Okay, so I have got answer from few of you that, sir, very simple, 160 is the break-even point. As you said, that at a particular point, when the when the sales is equals to the total cost, that is break-even point. So I have got answers from Rajiv Kumar Das, Arvind, Isha Jaiswal, that, sir, break-even point is 160. I think all of you have calculated 160 using the concept that, sir, 120 is my variable cost, 40 is my fixed cost. So total cost is 160 and my break-even point will be 160. This is how I think you guys have calculated 160. Now my point is, first and the foremost thing is 160 is the incorrect answer. Very important, guys. If we take the sales as 160, very important, If my sales is reducing, my units will reduce. It means my variable cost will reduce proportionately. My contribution will reduce proportionately. As I told you guys, this relationship of contribution and sales will remain unchanged. That is, we will assume that if the sales is reducing, the units are reducing. So if the sales is reduced to 160, my variable cost will also reduce. No? So herein, my contribution will be how much? 64. That is 40% of my sales. So my variable cost will be how much? It will be 60% of sales, and that will be 96. I repeat again also, guys. I've got answer from Aniket also, Alok also, Mohammad Farad. Everyone is answering, sir, 160. 160 is the incorrect answer. Why? You guys have calculated 160 as 120 is the variable cost, 40 is the fixed cost. So the total cost is 160. So our break-even sales should be 160 and our profit is 0. But guys, do make a note of it. Variable cost changes according to the production. If the units are reducing, the variable cost will reduce. And further, as I said, if the question is silent, we will assume that if the sales is reducing, it means the units are reducing. So if we reduce the sales, my variable cost will reduce proportionately. And we know that this relationship of sales and contribution will remain unchanged at all the level of sales. So my contribution will be 64. My fixed cost, as I said, it remained fixed at all the level of sales. So my final will be 24. So this answer 160 is incorrect. Now my point is, are you guys thorough with it? That why 160 is incorrect? So this answer is incorrect. 160 is the incorrect answer. Now, what is the correct answer? As I said, break even is the point where my profit and loss is 0. So let's assume my profit and loss is 0. Now, as I said, my fixed cost will remain constant at all the level of sales. So this will be 40. Contribution minus fixed cost should be 0. So my contribution will be 40. Now, as I said, the relationship of contribution to sales remain unchanged at all the level of sales. So we can say this 40 contribution is equals to 40%. So how much will be my sales? 100. My variable cost will be how much? 60. So herein in this case, my break-even sales will be 100. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can ask me. Why not 160? You guys can ask me. How I calculated 100? You guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. Yes, 100 is the correct answer, Ankit. Now, very simple, Rajiv. Very simple to all the students who have answered 160. अरे भाई, अगर sales reduce होगा, तो variable cost will reduce proportionately. So, if the sales is reduced to 160, my variable cost will reduce proportionately. So this 160 is the incorrect answer. If I keep my sales as 160, my contribution will be how much? 64. My fixed cost is how much? 40, and my profit will be 24. So at 160 sales, my profit will be how much? 24. So this answer is incorrect. When talking about the break-even sales, very simple. Let's assume my profit is 0. My fixed cost will remain constant at all the level of sales. So my fixed cost is 40. So this minus this should be 40. So my contribution should be 40. And as I discussed, guys, the relationship of contribution to sales remains same at all the level of sales, unless and until the question specifies that there is a change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit. Rest, in all the cases, the PV ratio will remain constant. That is, the relationship of contribution to sales remain constant. So here in my contribution is 40. And as I said, the contribution is 40% of sales. So 40 is 40%. So how much will be 100? 100. So what we can say, what we have done is, we have calculated 40 divided by 40%, that is 100. How come we derived 40? That is 40 plus 0 we derive 40. 40 plus 0 we derive 40 divided by 40%. So what is this 40? 40 is my fixed cost. 0 has no value, divided by 40%, that is my PV ratio. So this is what the formula of So what is the formula of break-even sales? Very simple, guys. Fixed cost divided by PV ratio. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. I will be Neha, don't worry. So very simple, guys. As I discussed, the basic assumptions of marginal costing, that is the selling price is constant if the question is silent. The variable cost per unit is constant if the question is silent. Therefore, if the question is silent, we will assume that the PV ratio is constant at all the level of sales. And herein, in this case, the relationship of contribution to sales is 40%. So my contribution will always be 40% of my total sales. As many students answered, कि sir सीधा सा कर लीजिए, 120 is the variable cost, 40 is the fixed cost. So if the total cost is 160, the sales should be 160 and my profit will be 0. But that answer is incorrect, because if the sales is reducing, the proportionate variable cost will also reduce. So 160 is my sales. If in case 160 is my sales, my variable cost will be 60% of the total sales. That is 96. So my contribution will be how much? 64. That is 40% of the total sales. As I said, fixed costs remain constant at all the levels of sales. The cost that keeps on changing is the variable cost, not the fixed cost. So herein my fixed cost is constant at all the level of sales. So my total profit will be how much? 24. Now, what will be the correct answer? Very simple. Let's take the reverse calculation approach, wherein, as I said, that at break-even point, my profit is how much? 0. My fixed cost will remain constant at all the level of sales. So 40 is my fixed cost. So how much will be my contribution? Fixed cost plus profit. This minus this should be 0. So this value will be how much? 40. Now this 40 contribution is how much of the total sales? 40% of the total sales. So how much will be the total sales? 100. So 40 divided by 40%, 100 is the point. 100 rupees sales is the point where we neither suffer any loss nor we earn any profit. So what we did is 40. How come we derived this 40? 40 plus 0 we derived. So what is 40? My fixed cost. 0 has no value, so ignored, divided by PV ratio. So this is the formula for break-even sales. So if you guys have any queries why I have done so, why not 160, why I have taken 40%, you guys can ask me. Guys, again I repeat, no need to memorize the formula. Try to prepare your own formulas. Try to make your own formulas. No need to memorize the formulas. Just use the concepts to solve the questions. So if you guys have any doubts, conceptual queries, why I have divided it by 40%, why not 160, you guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. As I said, if the PV ratio is 40% of the total sales, so my variable cost will be how much? 60% of the sales. So this is how I calculated the variable cost. I'll be discussing this part separately after discussing all the points. Rupesh, Rekha, contribution divided by PV ratio is the total sales. But yes, contribution can be, contribution can change. But here, when talking about the break-even sales, when we recover our fixed cost, it is our break-even sales. As I said in the previous example also, once we recover we get the contribution after recovering the variable cost. As and when we recover the fixed cost, it is our what we call as break-even point. If the contribution is more than fixed cost, the extra contribution is, we call it as profit. Yes, anyways, you can, there are n number of ways to solve the question. Yes, Mantanjali. Preeti Panchal, when talking about break-even sales, it is the point wherein the sales and total cost are same, or we can say at a particular point where there is no profit, no loss. This 160 answer was incorrect because if the sales is reducing, the proportionate variable cost will also reduce. So accordingly, this answer 160 is incorrect. How to calculate the break-even sales? Very simple. As I said, at break-even sales, my profit is what? 0. So as I said, fixed cost is 40 and it will remain constant at all the level of sales. So I have taken 40. This minus this should be 0. So my contribution will be how much? 40. So at break-even sales, we can say our contribution and fixed cost is the same. Rashmin Kumar Majitia, I have got my contribution as 40 and my PV ratio is 40% of the sales. It means what? My contribution is 40% of the sales. So this 40 is equals to 40% of the total sales. So how much will be the total sales? 40 divided by 40%. How formula is prepared, I have discussed, that is fixed cost divided by PV ratio. If you guys have any doubts, Rajiv Kumar Das, Rashmin Kumar, Preeti, Mantanjali, Tanishka, Chaitra, Isha, Vikas, Fareen, Ramakrishna, any doubts, any queries? Arvind? When talking about PV ratio, it is the percentage of contribution to sales. Contribution हमारी sales का कितना परसेंट है, ये बताता है हमें PV ratio. रफीका मेमन. Vijay Gore, very simple. This contribution is 40 in this case. Now, what is PV ratio? The relationship of contribution to sales is 40%. It means what? This contribution is 40% of sales. That's what we have calculated in PV ratio. So this 40 we have calculated is what? The 40% of sales. So how much will be the sales? Rafika, it is the percentage of contribution to sales, not the contribution is PV ratio. Contribution sales का कितना परसेंट है, ये हमें PV ratio बताता है. Rajiv Kumar, any doubts? Nalini, any doubts? Shivani, Tanishka, Madhuri. Vijay Gore, I hope you understand. I have discussed previously also what is PV ratio. Contribution sales का कितना percent है. That is what PV ratio. So herein in this question, contribution is 40% of sales and it will remain constant at all the level of sales. So here the sales level is reduced. Here also the sales level is reduced. So we are getting 40. So what is this contribution 40? It is 40% of the total sales. So how much will be the total sales? Waiting for your queries, guys. Mantanjali, Yogita, any doubts? Perfect. Yes, Shivani, no need to learn the formulas. Now let's discuss this concept with one more example. Let's say my sales quantity is 500, selling price per unit is 10, so this will be 5,000. My variable cost, let's say 3,500. So my contribution will be how much? 1,500. My contribution per unit is rupees 3, that is 10 minus 7. Contribution per unit. Let's say my fixed cost is 900. So how much will be my profit? 600. So we will first calculate the relationship between contribution and sales. That is, contribution sales का कितना percent है? Very simple. PV ratio we will calculate. That is contribution divided by sales into 100. That is 1500 divided by 5000 into 100. So that is 30%. We can calculate it like that also. Contribution per unit, both the formulas are same. So 3 divided by 10 into 100, that is 30%. So now we have calculated the relationship between contribution and sales, and it is 30%. It means if the question is silent, this 30% will remain constant at all the level of sales. Now in this case, what will be the break-even sales? Very simple. Can you guys tell me what will be the break-even sales? What will be the break-even sales, guys? Okay, Nalini, very good. Shivani, very good. Fareen, very good. Arvind, very good. Contribution is sales minus variable cost. And whatever the contribution that is derived, if we deduct fixed cost from the contribution, the balance amount what we will get is the profit. Very good, Rahul. What will be the break-even sales, guys? Very good, Neha. Your answer is correct. Arvind, correct answer. Fareen, correct answer. Nalini, correct answer. Vikas Bansal, correct answer. Neha Kumari, correct answer. Miss Jane Amrutlal, correct answer. Himanshu, correct answer. Khushi Yadav, incorrect answer. Isha Jaiswal, correct answer. I've got answers from many. Mantanjali, Mangeshwaran, Ankit Gupta, everybody correct answer. Janvi, your answer is incorrect. Kartik Gupta, very good, my dear. Your answer is correct. Akash Neel, Madhuri Nikare, your answer is incorrect. So very simple, the same approach. At this point, my profit will be 0. As I said, my fixed cost will remain constant at all the level of sales. So 900 will be my fixed cost. 900 minus 900, 0. So my contribution will be 900. Now the relationship between contribution to sales is 30%. It means at all the level of sales, the contribution will be 30% of the sales. At all the level of sales, I am writing it for your reference. At all the level of sales, my contribution will be 30% of sales. So herein we are getting a contribution of 900 and it is 30% of sales. So how much will be the total sales? 3000. So 3000 will be my total sales and 70% will be the variable cost. So variable cost will be 2100. So in short, what we did, again the same thing. 900 is my fixed cost plus 0. We are getting 900 as contribution. 900 divided by 30%, that is 3000. I hope you guys understand the logic behind why we are dividing by 30%. So 900 is my fixed cost plus 0. So my fixed cost is how much? 900 divided by 30%. That is 3000 rupees. Now, 3000 rupees is my break-even sales. So the selling price per unit is how much? 10 rupees. So how much will be my break-even units? Very simple, 300 units. I'm making a sales of 3000 rupees and per unit selling price is how much? Rupees 10. So how much will be the total break-even point in units? 300 units. Now, the break-even units we can calculate in an alternate way also. With the same concept what we have discussed, let's say this business is relating to manufacturing of pen. This pen is made up of how much? Variable cost 7 rupees. This pen is made up of rupees 7 and sold for rupees 10. So how much amount we are recovering after deducting variable cost? 3 rupees we are recovering on every pen after deducting the variable cost. I repeat again, in this question, let's say this pen is manufactured at a variable cost of rupees 7 and it is being sold at the rate rupees 10. So how much amount we are recovering per pen? Rupees 3. Now to get the break-even sales, to achieve the point where we neither incur any loss, neither we suffer any loss or we get any profit, we should recover at least 900 rupees fixed cost. So ultimately, how much amount we want to recover? 900 rupees. And how much amount we are recovering per pen? 3 rupees. So how much pen we have to sell to recover 900 rupees? Very simple, 300 pens. So when talking about how much amount we have to recover, 900 rupees. How much amount we are recovering per pen? Rupees 3. So this is how we will get 300 units or 300 pens. So 900 we have to recover. This is what my fixed cost. What is 3? My contribution. So this is the formula for break-even sales and break-even units. If you guys have any conceptual query why these formulas are prepared, you guys can ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. This 600 is my profit, my dear. My point is, when talking about break-even sales, we just want to recover the fixed cost, Madhuri. My variable cost is already recovered. Now I want to recover my fixed cost. So that's why I have taken 900 divided by 30%. At the break-even point, we have to recover our variable cost as well as fixed cost. Once both the costs are recovered, we can say it is our break-even point. Once we achieve break-even point, we will be starting our profit. So before we start our profit, we have to achieve break-even. So in break-even point, we have to recover the variable cost as well as fixed cost. So 3500 is my variable cost, 900 is my fixed cost. In this case, so here in this case, let's say my variable cost is 2100 and my fixed cost is 900. It means if we make a sale of 3000, we can recover our variable cost also and fixed cost also. Anyone else having any doubts, queries, can please ask me. Waiting for your queries, guys. Madhuri, any doubts, my dear? Madhuri, hopefully your doubt is resolved. Any conceptual queries in PV ratio and break-even sales? Waiting for your queries, guys. Yes, Aradhana, at break-even sales, fixed cost and contribution will be the same because contribution is derived after recovering our variable cost. So if we are calculating contribution, it means our variable cost is already recovered. So the only thing we have to recover is our fixed cost. So if at a particular point, contribution and fixed cost are same, it means it is the point of break-even. As far as the break-even point in units is concerned, the approach is similar to what we have discussed. For break-even, how much we have to see? The variable cost is already recovered while calculating contribution. So let's say my selling price is 10, my variable cost is 7. It means after recovering my variable cost, I'm getting rupees 3 as my contribution. Now my motto is how much to recover my fixed cost. So my total fixed cost is rupees 900, and per pen, after recovering the variable cost, I'm getting 3 rupees. So 3 plus 3 plus 3, how many pens I have to manufacture? If we manufacture 300 pens, we'll be recovering 900 as our fixed cost, and that 300 pens or 300 units is my break-even point. Yes, we can calculate. So both the approaches are correct. So if my sales is 3,000 rupees and the selling price is rupees 10 per unit, so we can easily calculate the break-even point as 300 units. Very good, Karthik. Very good, Madhuri. Okay, Preeti, Rafika, Aradhana, Ritika, Poonam, Shivam, Subhash, Atulya, Nidhi, Sakshi, Rekha, Rashmin Kumar, any doubts? Mangeshwaran, Ankit Gupta. Nalini, any doubts? So guys, no need to memorize the formula. Very simple. When talking about break-even sales in rupees, our contribution itself says that our variable cost is already recovered. So now we have to recover the fixed cost. So fixed cost divided by PV ratio, that is my break-even sales, if we have to calculate break-even sales in rupees. When talking about units, the concept is very easy. That is, in this question, my selling price is rupees 10. My variable cost is 7. So after recovering my variable cost, I'm getting a profit of rupees 3 per unit. Now, my first motto will be what? To recover my fixed cost. So how to recover fixed cost? Very simple. 900 I have to recover, and per pen I'm getting rupees 3. So how many pens I have to manufacture and sell to recover 900 rupees? Very simple, 300 pens. Rajiv Kumar, any doubts? We have to ignore depreciation for the same, Vijay. I request you guys to please copy this part. So the major formulas we have discussed is break-even point in rupees, that is fixed cost divided by PV ratio. and break-even point in units, that is fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. And how these formulas are derived, I have already discussed in detail. So I request you to please copy this part, and if you guys have any queries, any conceptual queries, how these formulas are prepared, why we are doing so, you guys can ask me. Yes, Rajiv Kumar Das, you have started preparing your new formulas, and that's a good way. So all the approaches are correct to break-even sales. I mean, you can calculate the break-even sales in any way. I have just taught you the best possible way and the easiest way and the direct way. Alternatively, you can calculate break-even sales with n number of ways. So there is a question for you, fixed cost, break-even sales and PV ratio. So how much will be the PV ratio? Can you guys tell me? My fixed cost is 30,000. My break-even sales is 1,20,000. So what will be my PV ratio? A question for you guys. Waiting for your answers, guys. Question number 1. Question number 2 for you. So waiting for your answers, guys. Sahil Walia, you have to refer all the lectures over YouTube. I've got answers from many, and I think most of the students now are thorough with the concepts. So I've got answers from Himanshu, Shivam Singh, Tanishka, Vijay, Arvind, Tanishka, Khushi Yadav, Shivam Durya, Deepak Goyal, Jyoti Vader. Everyone, your answer is correct. Rashmin Kumar, Rekha, Feba, Biju, Thomas, very good morning. I think it is your first comment. I'm just waiting, Mr. Aitha. I'm just waiting for the PV ratio, not in ratio. Everyone, your answers are correct. Okay, I've got answer for the second question. Shivam Singh, your answer is correct. Nalini, Madhuri, Tanishka, Shivani, where are you guys? Waiting for your answers, guys. Mantanjali, I've got your answer. Rekha, correct answer. Answer for question number second, guys. I'm waiting. So the formula for break-even sales is fixed cost divided by PV ratio. Waiting for the answers of second question. Vikas Bansal, correct answer. Kartik Gupta, very good. Akash Neil, your answer is incorrect. Sudhya Agarwal, your answer is incorrect. Ankit Gupta, please check the... Yes, Ankit Gupta, correct answer. Isha Jaiswal, correct answer. Rafika Memon, correct answer. Rest all you guys are sleeping or what? Waiting for your answers. Quick, guys. We are running out of time now. Yes, Sundhya Agarwal, your answers are correct. Vaishali Agarwal, your answer is correct. Mohammad Farad, correct answer. Yes, Tanishka, your answer is correct. Hemant, your answer is correct. Break-even sales is 40%. Waiting for your answers, guys. I want you guys to post. I want you guys to post as many as, post your answers, because once you are solving the questions in live session, then only you can understand what all mistakes you guys are doing. Mantanjali, correct answer. Mohammad Farad, correct answer. Shivam, incorrect answer. Nalini, your answer is incorrect. That's why I'm telling you guys, post your answers immediately. Try to solve it as fast as possible. Hitesh Jain, I have not got any answer from your end. Rashmin Kumar, incorrect answer. Madhuri, your second answer is incorrect. The only reason why I'm putting up these small questions in class, just to check whether you guys are thorough with the concepts or not. If you guys are making a mistake and then I'm solving the question, it's better, guys, so that at least you can understand that where you guys are going wrong. If I solve all the question, you will find everything very easy. But guys, I have cleared my exams and I'm teaching you. So you guys have to solve. If your answers are incorrect, then you will understand that where you guys are going wrong. So try and solve the questions what I'm discussing in the class. Khushi Yadav, incorrect answer. See, many are still not being able to answer. Okay, Amit Yadav, your answer is correct. Rest all. Aradhana, your answer is incorrect. So the solution of second question, my sales is 5 lakh and break-even sales is 40% of the total sales. So break-even sales will be 5 lakh into 40%, that is 2 lakh. And fixed cost will be how much? 2 lakh into 30%. That is 60,000. The same formula, that is fixed cost divided by PV ratio, I've used the same formula. Hemant, your answer is correct. Rafika Memon, fixed cost is incorrect. Pooja PS, yes, your answer was correct. Rohit Joshi, Nidhi Parikh, Sahil Walia, please check the number of zeros. So guys, we are done with break-even sales, and most of the students, what I can figure out is they are thorough with the concepts. So enough of discussion on break-even sales. So guys, in the today's session, we discussed what is marginal cost, what is variable cost, what is fixed cost. Thereafter, we discussed PV ratio. The formula we discussed is contribution divided by sales into 100. So it shows the relationship of contribution to sales. So PV ratio, contribution divided by sales into 100, it shows the relationship of contribution to sales. Further, there are few assumptions, that is PV ratio will remain same at all the level of sales. That's why I divided by 40% in the second question, that is of break-even sales, because it remained constant at all the level of sales. Whether you increase the number of units or whether you decrease the number of units, PV ratio will remain constant. But if there is any information given in the question as regards change in selling price per unit or variable cost per unit, yes, the PV ratio will change. Yes, the PV ratio will change. Thereafter, we discuss break-even point, that is the point wherein there is no profit, no loss, or we can say sales is equals to total cost. The formula we discussed, there is no formulas in this chapter, just like standard costing. It's more of a concept based. How formulas I have calculated, I have already discussed in detail. So the formula, I'm just discussing the formula now. If you want to calculate break-even sales in rupees, fixed cost divided by PV ratio. And if you want to calculate in units, fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. So this is what the concept of break-even sales is. How these formulas I have derived, I have already discussed. So again, no need to memorize the formula. Try to frame the equation you guys can. You can solve the question in n number of ways of marginal costing, but the major thing is the final answer should be the correct. So guys, enough of discussion for today. We are running short of time now. It's already 9:30. Madhuri Nikhare, second example I'm not getting. So Madhuri, my sales is 5 lakh and it is given that break-even sales is 40% of the total sales. So how much will be my break-even sales? 2 lakh. Now my break-even sales is 2 lakh. So my break-even sales is 2 lakh. And my fixed cost is how much? We have to calculate divided by PV ratio. And PV ratio is how much? It is given 30%. So cross multiplication. So fixed cost is equals to 60,000. So thank you so much guys for your time and patience, and further I appreciate your efforts that most of you guys were trying to solve the question in the live session. So thank you so much for that. In the next class, we will discuss the remaining part of the chapter, plus I'll be putting up few questions in front of you. So I expect that most of the students will be able to solve the questions. So guys, that's it for the day. See you guys day after tomorrow. Thank you so much. God bless you and take care. And further, do revise what I have discussed in this class. You can check the YouTube video for the lecture. I do expect that most of the students will come prepared in the next session, because the next session is dependent upon what we have discussed in the today's session. So thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Admin sir, I'm done with the